so
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right, yeah, I can do that. So I'll try and start at this level, but again, it might rise
I'll keep you a little bit
higher.
low in case you blow out the microphone.
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, if I get to a point in if I'm relaying a
Some fingers
story.
If anybody's interested.
Oh no, thank you. Oh.
Did you pick those specifically because of their Cadbury?
Not particularly.
Like, should have just had a bunch of like culturally insulting.
You know, I haven't seen them for years.
They're only good if you dip them in Branston pickle, so don't worry
In
about
what?
it. That was a joke, but Branston pickle is something I want to get Sam to go grab it for me. Branston pickle is fantastic. It's a sandwich topping, or it goes with cheese dishes. It's a very rich kind of
You could have told me that
sauce.
it was a premium Scotch, and I would have believed you. 'Cause
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Branston pickle, just Google it. It's probably easier because it's a staple of like British lunchtime. If you've heard of a ploughman's lunch.
Nope. A ploughman's lunch.
Ploughman's lunch, yeah. You go into
I've heard of that.
any pub in Britain and ask for a ploughman's lunch. You'll get bread, cheese, a few other things, just like some standards.
Okay.
And it's very basic, easy food.
What does the meat come from in this? Is it
Oh,
cow?
there's no meat in. Well, I guess if they're going to give you meat with it, it'll be ham or something like that.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
yeah, but Branston pickle, I always used to have it on my sandwiches.
Hmm.
Cheese and Branston.
Cheese and Branston.
Yum.
With ham.
Merry Christmas, Andrew. That's
Well,
a gift.
thank you.
That's not a Christmas gift for tonight, so I thought I'd wrap it just for you.
Well, thank you.
This
Um,
is a podcast
am I
kind
op-
of gift?
Is
No.
this okay? Is this for now or later?
You can open it now. It's not a good gift.
Okay.
It's not a bad gift.
It's not a bad gift. It's not a
I
good
think
gift.
this is more entertaining if we see it then.
I think I have to now.
Pretty boring, actually.
I do boring. I don't mind boring at all.
As an adult, I've transitioned more to enjoying functional gifts that are
This is very functional.
So okay, no, I like that idea.
Wrapped up like that?
I don't know, get creative.
Okay.
In a box like that, I might put like a bottle of
It's heavy.
something.
What do you think it is? Eric, pick up the box.
Okay, my guess would be something to do with a tripod mount.
That's a oddly specific
It is.
thought.
I don't know why.
I guess
Well, if you were thinking tripod
Or
mount,
microphone.
you're gonna be
It's gonna be.
disappointed.
bottle,
It's too heavy for a microphone.
bottle of whiskey.
Could be a bottle of whiskey, but it's not. It is
Not
incredibly
Lovely.
popular. It looks like business cards.
They are really, really
Well,
nice business.
They're
hey,
very nice business
they look
cards.
it.
They feel great.
Yeah. Oh
in the
wow.
hand.
Yes.
Very smooth.
Nice. Love it.
And you have to give out all of them in the next 90 days.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There's 1,000 there. I counted them myself.
Yeah. No, that'll take me a year to get through. If yeah, because Al would love it if I handed these out at every shoot.
Well, I suppose first off, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Back. You're welcome. This is Andrew, everybody. Say hi
Hey.
to Andrew, or say hi to the people.
Hi, the people.
That works.
We the people.
We have people would be about how I would describe the people that listen to us. There's no, I don't know. Now I'm just rambling.
Nothing wrong with that.
Andrew, I have known for quite a while. He used to be the baby photographer extraordinaire when I was doing baby photos. Everybody talked about Andrew. It was always Andrew's this, Andrew's that. He's the best. He's great. And then I met him. And they were right.
I was waiting for the bullet drop there. I was like, nope. Well, thank you.
He has an accent and some interesting stories. So
Okay, I'm going to stop you there.
What?
We're all speaking English.
Yeah,
you were the ones with the accents. All right.
I'll take that.
So
that's fair.
there's nothing wrong with it, you know. I can understand you, so you're fine.
So I guess I spoiled the baby photo stuff, but you. A few weeks ago, we had somebody who also worked on a cruise ship. He was a videographer on a cruise ship.
Oh,
And
really?
Him talking made me think, well, now it's time to get Andrew on, because
Yeah, you've been threatening to bring me on here, so
Yes.
I guess this is as good a time
So
as
let's-
any.
I suppose that means we're starting mostly with your career history. Just
Well, we can start wherever.
Yeah, it'll be a ramble. Just generally
That's
how I
what
do.
we're hoping
My
for.
wife, yeah, Sam will constantly try and kick me under the table if I start because I can go off on tangents like you wouldn't
That's
believe.
fine. We have time.
she can't stop you here.
No.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, no. Well, we'll see what.
The only thing she can do is she can listen and then stop listening.
That's true. She can
pause.
fast forward when she sees your eyes glaze over, so she'll be. So you make sure, yeah, when there's a bit of that, she'll know. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I mean, I got into photography very young, and as a lot of people do as a hobby, and you get your first camera and you start taking pictures. And this comes back from my dad, who we always went to Scotland when I lived in England, because I was born in England. We lived there for 11 years, and every year we would go up to Scotland for a couple of weeks, and it was like happy holidays. It was often raining, but it was usually great fun, and sometimes it was in a caravan, sometimes it was in a like bed and breakfast, just whatever was available, and we had these wonderful memories, and there was always Dad taking pictures, and it was usually a sunset, that he would like to take pictures of. And so once we came home, there was always part of the family tradition was to sit around and look through all the slides that he'd taken, and because he was very, very much a slide person rather than negative and print.
Instead of negatives.
Mm-hmm.
What was he shooting on? Do you remember what camera?
Yeah, it was a Minolta A1
Okay.
because I think I still have it. I'm one of these pack rats, I never get rid of cameras, so he gave me that many years ago, and I still have it somewhere. I just don't know where, so don't ask me to. I didn't bring it or anything, so that's going to be a disappointment. But yeah, we would often have an evening where we'd sit and we'd look through slides, and to get that much joy from a hobby, it was quite easy for me to ask for a camera and be given one, and it was, I can't remember the first one, but it was definitely plastic. And
As
it
for
was.
many of the Minoltas of that.
Oh, this wasn't a Minolta that
Yeah.
they didn't spend that much money on my camera. I was like 7 or 8 with my first camera, but it was when I took my first picture that I knew was a great picture from looking through the lens, knowing that I'd taken a great picture. And it was strange because we were on holiday, and this was the first time we'd not been in Scotland. We went to the south of France, and we were on a walk, just a nature walk out along the coast, and there was this interesting flat rock upright at the side of the road. It fascinated me, and so as we're walking past it, I noticed there was an almost perfectly round circle hole in the rock, and I looked, and through it, as I looked through it, there was a sailboat in the distance right in the middle, and I just picked up the camera and I took a shot, and didn't know how to do this, and it just came naturally. I framed the image perfectly, and I ran and told my mum and dad, who were on this walk looking at like sheep and stuff, and I says, "Mum, Dad, I just took this great picture," and I went, "Oh, that's nice," and they carried on walking. I thought, wait a minute, this is really good. We had to wait until we got home because I was shooting on film, and so when everyone got all their pictures back, and Dad got his slides, and I got my pictures. We're looking through, and then we came to this picture of the boat in the middle of this like almost window, like it's like a porthole almost, and it looked as good as I thought it was going to look. And so Mum and Dad were like, "Oh, this is really good," and I went, "I know, I told you when I took it." And from there, I was hooked on trying to take great images. And so the strange thing was, I turned a little older and found music and got into music in a big way. And so I started, and I'd always played guitar, so I got more into the guitar playing, and the photography kind of backslid for a number of years. And then I wound up, now we were living in Fife by this time in Scotland, and now the economic climate there was a bit rough. And there were some places where it was really easy to get jobs and others where it wasn't. And I was a bit of a school dropout. I was smart, but I was lazy. And at the time when I assume you have something similar here, where you have a career interview at school at a certain age, where an advisor will come and sit down with you and ask you what you want to do, and that would happen to us. And I would have been about 15, and mostly interested in girls and music. And I was asked what I was going to be doing, what college course I wanted to take. And I'm like, I have no idea what I want to do. And it says, I guess, and I said, I want to play music. I want to be a guitar player. So I've not really thought about a college course, but my mum and dad want me to go to college. So, I'm here talking to you. And they said, okay, so we got some space in the computing course, and we got some space in the building course. Now, I'm going to age myself right now. This was early 80s, mid 80s, where a computer was something you had to do all the coding. There was no such, this was pre-Windows.
Yeah.
So everything was code. And I'd done a little bit of computing, and I hated it. It was like, I don't want to do this. I don't understand this nonsense. So when I got given the offer of either a place on a computing course or a building course, well, I know what buildings are. They're easier to work with, so all right, I'll take the building course. So I ended up on that for 2-3 years before I got kicked out for not being interested.
What kind of building was it?
Architecture and construction.
Okay.
So it was, there was very, varied facets of building that you were studying. So there was the architectural parts, there was the standard method of measurement study, which is a manual on how high the damp-proof course needs to be, and how all of the kind of specifications and the codes and the building codes and the angle of like services. And so we were studying exactly how steep or shallow the drain needs to be, so that when it's being constructed, so that the builders know that the poop is going to keep moving. When you flush the toilet, if it's too steep, it's not going to work. But if it's not steep enough, the water's going to be able to move it along. So we were doing all this really, really mind-numbingly boring stuff to me, because I had no interest. And very quickly, I decided that that this wasn't for me either. But anyway, I stuck with the college because my parents wanted me to go to college, but it didn't work out. I was asked to leave, and I ended up working in electronics in a factory just to get some income at the time, until I figured out what I did want to do. And I ended up working there for 5 or 6 years, and that's when I got back into photography. And I bought a camera from a mate who was selling it.
What camera?
That was the Pentax.
K1000?
It wasn't K1000.
No. Pretty.
The PT30? Yeah, it was a new one. It was the classic K1. Yeah, it wasn't the classic K1000. That was the classic Pentax,
yes,
wasn't it?
the one that many people learned.
and they still people still use them. Yes. I mean, it's fantastic. For me, it was a PT30, I think, was the Pentax one with a couple of lenses, and I enjoyed doing that. And I started like getting my weekends. I would take off and maybe go up to the Highlands and do some landscape stuff. And then one day I was chatting to a mate who was also, and now this was a guy who was incredibly intelligent, but also not particularly driven, kind of lazy like myself. And we both had a lot of passion for music, so we instantly became very good friends. And we got chatting, and one day he said, "Okay, I'm going off to Australia." I went, "You what?" He's got a cousin who lives over there, and he went off to Australia for 6 months. So I'm like, well, that's cool. And at this time I was single, and I'm thinking, well, that would be great to travel. So how do I do that? Certainly not working in a factory, not on the wages you got. You can barely pay for a roof over your head. So one day, I usually get a lift. I did a bit of car sharing with a guy who one day, he wasn't available and my car was in the shop. So I said, I had to take a bus. All right, and normally I don't go anywhere near my local technical college, but on this day had to take the bus. So get the bus, I'm looking out the window, and they're having an open day at this college. I thought, okay, maybe I'll drop in on the way back. So I did that. I got off the bus at the college, went in to see, and I says, do you have any photography courses? And they says, okay, over there. So I went over to meet the guy that was doing the intake for the college course. So I think, okay, I'll maybe talk about doing this next year, because this is August. This is late August. The classes will be full. They'll be, the intake will be full. So I'll see a little bit about it, chat to them. And he says, okay, you want to do photography? Yeah. Well, we've got a course starting next week if you're interested. You just have to apply and you're pretty much guaranteed a spot. I went, okay, a little bit unplanned, but okay, let's do this. And the next day, I took in my notice, handed in my notice at my work, and then I was basically sat there, and it was I'll never forget, because it was August 31st, the Sunday, and the course started on the Monday. So on the Sunday, which happened to be my 30th birthday, I got up, switched on the TV, and for some reason the then Prime Minister Tony Blair was on the news. I'm like, oh, what's up? What's he on the news for? And I saw he was in a really somber suit, standing outside a church, talking to the cameras, doing a press release. I'm like, what is this? And you could hear from his tone, someone's died. And the more I watched, the more I thought, who is it that's died? And then a picture of Princess Diana comes up on the TV. This was 1997, and so she had died completely ruined my birthday, by the way. And she pretty much, yeah, well, at least people remember the date, at least. But yeah, the day before I'm starting a course, she's killed apparently by the paparazzi. So I'm like, well, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of reception the photographers get tomorrow. But yeah, so I did the course, and that was 2 years of study, and graduated quite high. That's college for you, No, actually, that's something. There you go. Actually, that's something I never really did.
No, never ever.
Well, I've dabbled, but not something I did in college. That's the funny thing. It's like, it's over here, so it's been legalized over here, and no interest for me, and it's a strange situation, but we completely digressed. So yeah, that's right. So so when I graduated, the next thing we did was start talking about where we're going to get work, and one of the guys who had done the course the year before came in and visited us, and this was probably a few weeks before graduation, and he was sitting chatting because he'd got a job on cruise ships, and he was telling us how bad it was, how it didn't work out. And I was talking to one of the lecturers on the course, and I said, so why do you suppose it didn't work for him? Because I'm thinking, okay, one of the reasons I did this course was because I wanted to travel, and that sounds like maybe a good option. And she says, oh, that's because he's an idiot. I'm like, oh, okay. He was a bit of a lad.
Good way to dismiss
and
his experience.
Yeah, it turns out that he went out there, and there's certain things that you have to do, certain things, checks and balances that they put in place to ensure that they're not going to waste all their money. Because when you hire someone and you put them into the cruise ship industry, there are certain costs that are going to be met. This guy somehow got the impression that it was going to be all like champagne and pool parties, and it's not. It was, I mean, even back then, I should imagine it's even tougher now with the economic climate that we got. You probably have to do a lot more work now than we did when I went out there, but it's hard work. And the money can be fantastic, and the money can be absolutely abysmal. It varies from ship to ship. Because if you think of all the different options in cruise ships that there are, there are people who are going to be on a cruise for months at a time. You can only sell them so many photographs. And this photography work was pure commission based. This was based, their income was based purely on the money they generated. Because it's all offshore, and the whole industry is done, in basically run from the Cayman Islands. I should say it's registered in the Cayman Islands and it's run from Miami. And so all of the employees, there's very few, for instance, Americans work on cruise ships in certain departments. And then the rest of it is imported labour. And it's great fun, though. And honestly, working on cruise ships was a lot of fun. A lot of different things happened on the cruise ships, some of which, you kind of want to keep them on the cruise ships. But there were some great times. It's a great way to travel. It's a great way to see a bit of the world, because you get some short leave, you get some time off. But you're also, one of the things you're doing is you do have a lot of time off on board the ship. And the crew areas, that's where you go and relax and let your hair down, because you can't, when you're in the passenger areas, you have a certain, and it's the service industry, you've got to act a certain way. So then we have designated crew areas where you can be more yourself. So that's where the fun all happens. So that was 5 years on ships that I spent. A lot of fun. Saw a lot of places that I didn't know existed, and B, I wouldn't have been able to go and see.
Most beautiful place you went to would be, if you had to choose your favorite destination, your favorite port of call.
That would be a toss-up between Alaska and Europe.
Which part of Europe?
I'm just well, the Med. We did a Med cruise, and the Mediterranean cruise was started, let me think, in Barcelona.
Okay,
Fantastic city, amazing city. We hit Villefranche on the French Mediterranean. Again, now Villefranche is probably the most stunning town you're never going to see. It's just an absolutely beautiful little, and it's the sheer cliffs almost. It's like you've probably seen like Santorini and the cliff sides full of houses, and they're all completely white. Mm-hmm. Well, Villefranche was kind of similar to that, but it's all pastels because it's French and they like a bit of colour. So this was just a stunning little town. And then from Villefranche we would go to Rome. Well, that was Civitavecchia, which is the port, and Livorno. So Civitavecchia we'd go on to Pisa or Florence and that kind of thing. So yeah, Italy, again, that was a stunning place to go see. And then Malta, Valletta in Malta, which is a bizarre sight when you sail into that particular city, because you look out and there is nothing but TV antenna everywhere. It's just a forest of TV antenna on all the roofs. There's no cable, there's no satellite. They get all of their television reception from mainland Europe, pretty much. It's bizarre. So Malta was interesting, but very dry. Where else did we go on that one? I think that was about it. Oh, Naples, of course.
Okay.
Crazy town. The traffic was just mind-boggling. The pizza was fantastic, but the traffic is absolutely crazy. And we were always told, don't buy anything from the vendors, especially if they're on mopeds. Never buy a phone, for instance, because at this time, mobile phones were getting, this was early 2000s, and cell phones were becoming like really hot property. And so there's all the enterprising salesmen were selling these phones, and they would target a lot of tourists and crew members. So one of our friends, he decided, okay, I'm going to catch these guys, right? Because they said, you'll end up without the phone. They'll do a switch. He says, they won't catch me. So one of the vendors, one of the guys pulls up on a moped, and he goes out and he talks to this guy, and he says, okay, so here's my phone. Shows him how it works, everything, puts it in the box, takes the money, gets on the moped, rides off into the sunset. He's like, got it. Opens up, It's a bottle of water. He switched it out with a bottle of water, and he's still to this, and it cost him $150. And he still to this day doesn't know how he did it. It's amazing. So yeah, interesting place, Naples. But yeah, that was a crazy town. And from there we went to Vesuvius, Pompeii. And that's stunning. That's still, that's a really impactful place, because it's preserved as it was. A lot of areas, and they're still excavating.
Is it a very busy place for tourists?
Pompeii?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's constant visitation there, and so they've had to reduce. I think they've had to manage. It's like Machu Picchu. They're having to manage how many people go through it now for the preservation, and they're still excavating in parts of Pompeii. So that was interesting to see. But yeah, so that was Europe. But I think Alaska. Will always say part of the reason why I think I'm always going to have a fondness for Alaska was that's where we got engaged. I proposed to Sam. We had some friends visiting, and we were on some time off. We were having a drink, and I was just chatting to them. And for whatever reason, I'd been talking to them about Sam. She worked in the casino, and I worked in the photo department. So we had quite variant schedules. Although by the time we were on the vision together, I was working towards being a lab technician, and that's where I spent most of my time. So quite often I would be printing at night time while she was working in the casino. So we were able to get some time together. And yeah, one night we were just chatting. Sam was working late, and I was up drinking with these guys, just chatting away. And it occurred to me that I wanted to propose to her. So it was an incredibly romantic proposal on top bunk. Because you share when you work in a cruise ship, you have a roommate, because again we're crew, we don't get like private bathrooms and all this kind of thing. You're sharing with a complete stranger, which wasn't so bad because most of us got along most of the time. There were very rarely there were problems because you didn't have any choice. You had to get along with people because you were in each other's pockets, in each other's lives all the time, relying on each other for income. So it worked out quite well. But yeah, I proposed to her when she came in that night. Couldn't get down on one knee because we were on top bunk. I would have banged my head on the ceiling, but she said yeah.
Well, I figured that much.
Yeah. So yeah, Alaska was great. I mean, we did an amazing dog sled ride, and the pictures are still around somewhere on the top of a glacier. That was just, and you take a helicopter up to the glacier, and you're just going over the mountains, looking down, and the water on the in these the little pools of water is just like aquamarine, just absolutely beautiful water, and it's just a stunning sight. And so then we did the sled ride, getting to mush the dogs, all that kind of stuff. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, and the wildlife in Alaska, of course, is just remarkable. Yeah, the whales and the dolphins, the eagles, bears, all kinds of stuff.
What time of year was it when you were there?
The Alaska season, we did the whole season, and that's April, May, I think we arrived, something like that. But yeah, it was, and April, the weather was brutal. And then it starts to warm up, and by the time, it's in full, the season's in full swing, it's great weather. It's really nice. And you still get plenty of snow and rain because you're up in the mountains half the time. But it's no different to living in Scotland. You get used to it. So yeah, and Alaska, yeah, there's some memories of that. And one of the things, again, this will, again, give context to the time I was working. When you work on cruise ships, this was kind of pre-digital. We had one ship out. That was the Voyager of the Seas. That was the first cruise ship in the world with a digital lab, and I was lucky enough to go and do the setup on that ship with a few others. Just the latter stages, the last 2 or 3 weeks pre-launch. So the lab was being set up. I didn't get to do much of the lab work, which was a shame because this was my first contract when I went to the Voyager. And so she came out. We sailed across the Atlantic on this lab. First ice rink at sea as well on that ship. So I got to
that class of ships.
the Voyager class. Yeah,
would have also been. It would have been the
Explorer
and
yeah.
the Mariner.
Yes, the Explorer was actually also being built right in front of the Voyager. They'd already started and they had the shell basically, and so the Explorer was being built as we were sailing out.
The Explorer was my first full-length cruise.
Right. And so you did it from the passenger perspective.
Yeah.
So at the time that you did the cruise, were you involved in photography yourself?
I was still really young.
Okay.
When I was younger, and some of my family will still say that I'm suited for it, and I still kind of do it, I always wanted to be in hospitality. And I saw the cruise director on those ships, and I got thinking, that seems like a fun job. And that's what I wanted to do for a very, very, very long time. And it wasn't, up until probably grade 11, that's when I made the shift from the hospitality idea to the photography side of things. And then I buried it with film production and whatnot.
Yep.
And then I went on a cruise again in the spring of 2016.
Okay.
And there was a Canadian cruise director. It was on the Oasis of the Seas.
The Oasis, right?
Huge
Yeah.
ships.
Yeah, they're crazy.
They're
Big.
Insane. And he was very candid. He talked to me for quite a bit because at that point I had more or less been recently single. I didn't really have a lot of ties and whatnot, so I had considered it again.
Yeah.
And there's still a part of me that wishes I had, but
Yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone. However, and that's the thing, there is, you got to step back and you got to think, is it right for you? And it's really suited to the singles.
I don't think I'd be able to do it now.
And yeah, well, I was 32 when I got my first
I'd be able
job,
to do it now.
and that's the thing. There's the age that you start. Yeah, it's geared towards younger people because it's very high energy, very hard work.
You're very high energy even now.
Yeah, so well, that's the fun, and there's a good story. From you worked with me before. You've both seen me working and like doing the photo booth, and my energy levels are quite high.
No,
So
you
I'm
should
naturally-
see Eric just go on and on about you. Everybody does. But
Wow. The second I saw you doing it, I'm like, yeah, he's better than Teal and I at this, for sure.
It's a knack. It's just, and it's a personality thing, definitely. But the energy does have to come from somewhere, and I guess I've got a high energy level naturally. So when you're on a cruise ship and you're talking like long distances, you're doing a lot of walking, and I developed a very specific style of walking. So you can imagine me putting that energy into just walking from A to B. It's very focused, but now big nose, right? Often gets itchy. So I developed a tic over years, and I do this quite a lot. So now, and bear with me, in the cruise ship industry, huge concern, of course, is drugs.
I can see
So
that.
there's me walking at a high rate of knots, doing this all the time. I was by far the most selected person for the random drugs test
Oh no.
in the entire cruise industry for like that 5 years. I swear, at every contract, my name would come up for the random drugs test. I'm like, honestly, there's 7 of us in this crew, just in the photography crew. It's like there's 500 crew members. And in a short 6-month span, even if I changed from one ship to another, I'd get tested randomly on both ships. And I swear it was down to this high energy walk with the... And the worst part was, I'm not going to name him, although he'll never see this.
You never know. We have some weird people comment on people's stuff.
Okay. Well, he was from Jamaica. I mean, we had people
we're
from
very
all
big
over
in
the world.
Jamaica.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's where all
sounds
of
good.
our views come from.
It must be the backing music you use. when as I mentioned, we all share a bunk, share a cabin with someone else. But by the time me and Sam were engaged, Sam was already a head cashier with the casino, so she got her own cabin. So whenever I would arrive, word would already get around that I was going to be the person's cabin mate. They knew they were getting the cabin to themselves, which is a real bonus because I'm living with Sam in her cabin, and so my bunk is free. So yeah, there were lots drawn for getting me as a cabin mate, that kind of thing. And there's lots of couples on cruise ships, quite often the case, but usually you have to kind of make arrangements. Whereas with Sam having her own cabin, that was great. So we stayed in her cabin. All our luggage would stay on my top bunk, and that was all I used it for. Anyway, so a couple of years after one of our contracts, towards the end of our time on cruise ships, actually, we got chatting to one of my friends about some of the people we'd worked with, and I mentioned this guy's name. Yeah, I did 2 contracts with him. My first one, and he was great. He was a really cool guy. And then I shared again with him on Nordic Empress, I think it was. Anyway, the ship itself was, I'm pretty sure it was the Nordic, because our cabin was, Sam's cabin was literally in the same corridor as the photographers' cabins, and so we were right across the hall from this guy. And so I'd said, about a year ago I was back with him, and he went, yeah, he's in jail now. Like, he's what? Yeah, he got busted. They arrested him in Bermuda, and because they'd been watching him for a long time, they raided his cabin and found, like, I can't remember how much, 100,000 grams, $1,000 worth of cocaine in his
You think you
luggage.
could easily fit that? Well,
I don't know. This is what I heard, and he's in Bermuda. He's being tried in Bermuda. He's being jailed in Bermuda. I was like, well, worst places to spend the rest of your life. And he says,
Sure.
oh yeah, no, Bermuda jails you don't want to be in.
No.
I'm like, oh, well, that's the thing. It's quite common for like launderers and that work through a place like Bermuda, all the tax havens and that. So the funny thing is, if he'd been caught with that in my cabin, I could just as easily have been arrested.
Well, especially with your nose tick.
With all of that. So, and the random drugs tests. So yeah, that was a scary one to find out about. But yeah, they'd been watching him for years, and but again, you've got to catch them, and you've got to be pretty sure that you're getting them at the right time. So yeah, that was scary. So there's a lot goes on. A lot goes on the cruise ships.
You're a happily married, self and not so self-proclaimed family man. We all know you're the family man.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go into details, but I've heard tell that life on a cruise ship, outside of the apparent drug smugglers and whatnot, there can be quite the amount of debauchery. Did you notice that too, or was it kind of
well, it's younger people. It's aimed at the younger people, and we had some fairly, how do I put it?
How are we
I was
rating
lucky.
this podcast? Is it PG or?
No, I mean
Doesn't have to be.
I was lucky with hooking up with Sam, and for me that was all. Once I'd got hooked up with Sam, that was fine for me. Beyond that, yeah, I mean there was very short-term relationships. There were other people who would have several longer-term relationships going, and they would maintain them, sometimes with the knowledge, sometimes without the knowledge. And then the doctor's office had a basket full of condoms sat on the desk at all times, and you could always drop in and grab condoms. So yeah, I mean, it's young kids, very cheap booze, readily available, and you got a lot of time off. So yeah, there was plenty of that going on, plenty of that, and it was pretty open. as long as as long as you weren't trying to mix it up with the passengers.
Yeah,
that was the one big no-no. And I think that there were certain departments, like the waiters, would see that as a challenge. And you heard some stories about the waiters trying to get away with it, and a few of them got sacked for being caught, and others just got great stories, I guess, for not being caught. But yeah.
I always liked there was a movie called Out to Sea with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon.
Yep.
And it's a weird movie to say it's one of my favorites, but it's one of my favorites growing up just because they became dance hosts on a cruise ship, and the cruise director was played by the guy who played Data on Star Trek: The Next
Brent
Generation.
Spiner?
Yep.
Really?
Very cool.
Yeah. And Rue McClanahan played the owner of the ship and whatnot. It's a good movie. It's basically like grumpy old men.
Right, at sea. Okay.
But it's such a
grumpy old seamen.
Yeah. But it's such a farce, and they still make the cruise living or the cruise ship life look not quite glamorous, because it's not. They make fun of the accommodations for the employees.
The accommodation and the food was always the big joke on cruise ships, because honestly, when you see the cruise ship menus and the restaurants and the dining room and the fine, and it looks amazing. Of course, it will. It's a great selling point. And for us, working formal night was one of the highlights, because on one of the ships especially, because the chief there, Chalky, and I'm still in touch with him thanks to Facebook. He was an amazing guy, really hardworking guy, but he was working on the Sovereign, which was a 3 and 4 day cruise ship. By that I mean they would in 1 week have 2 cruises. First one was 3 days, and that was a Sovereign. Where did she started out in Miami? Yeah, so she would be Miami, Nassau, Bahamas, and then Coco Cay, private beach.
Nice. Like it.
And then on the 4 day, it used to be Miami, Nassau, Coco Cay, Key West. Back to Miami. Key West, fantastic. Still one of my favorite places.
I won't go. It's on my song line.
But that was 3 and 4 days. So you had 2 sets of passengers, and 2 formal. And the formal night that's your gravy. That is your bread. That's your living. Is making the most of that one formal night on the ship.
For photos.
For photos, yeah, because everyone's getting dressed up, and they want to meet the captain. They want to get their pictures done. So, excuse me, on a formal night, we would get up, switch the lab on, often shoot the gangway on arrival, so passengers getting off, we shoot them. Then we'd be setting up, so you've got, the team is split up. You've got the gangway team who's shooting the gangway, you've got a printer who's coming down, switching on the lab, collecting the film, getting the print started, and getting it printed and up on the wall. But you've also got the formal night team who are out setting up all the backdrops, the cheesy, the moon, the ship, the captain's cocktail party, the centrum, like the piano shoot, wherever, like the centerpiece of the cruise ship, and they always have there's a staircase shoot, that kind of thing. And this was like 4 or 5 different locations, plus you were going in and shooting in the dining room as well. While people are trying to eat their dinner, you're shoving a camera in their face and telling them to smile. And that, again, that's something that you need a real kind of forward personality to get it done properly and get it done quickly, but get it done well as well. You want to be able to take a picture that people are going to buy. So, and this is where the personality comes in. You've got to have self-confidence to go and approach a table. And while you're approaching it, you're looking for the couple who are looking for a picture. Because if you get a refusal when you first walk up to them and they say, no, get lost, it gives the rest of the table, they're like, oh, yeah, no, we don't want to do it. And suddenly you've got a blank table. You're not going to make any money there. So you're looking for the couple where she's maybe 20 years younger than him, and he's going to be quite happy to get picture taken with her, but you're looking to her. You're making sure she can see the camera as you're making a beeline. And she's already leaning towards him, and half your job's done, half your work's done, because when one person does it, the next set is much easier to go, okay, your turn. So it's great fun. But that's the formal night. And so all of this is happening, as well as shooting the gangway. And when it's, 2 cruises in 1 week, you've got to maximize every single shoot. So you're doing all this shooting, and then the lab is in full production mode to get the pictures up on the wall for the next morning. So it's a 24-hour operation to get the pictures up on the wall for when they're getting up in the morning. Because quite often you'll have a C day where they've got nothing else to do. They're coming to the photo gallery and they're looking. So you're printing these pictures through the night, and you're starting to display them sometimes 5, 6 in the morning. Sometimes you just start displaying them in the middle of the night. It just depends on how you want to do it. And you're working with a team, so you're figuring out, when are we going to do this?
Sorry to interrupt. This is how it worked in the digital era?
This is how it was when I was doing it in film. Nowadays, I'm pretty sure what they do is it's on screen in their cabins. I'm pretty sure that's what they were moving towards.
Last time I was on, they did a cabin, but they still had this beautiful gallery, just everybody. So the cabin stuff worked, but I still found myself looking through the gallery photos, and then that's where you could get your cruise canvases and whatnot.
Yep.
And they also had at least on the Oasis, they had a actual photo studio, because they had their
a static studio.
Yeah, that Oasis family of ships has they call it the Central Park or whatever. It's an inside garden.
Okay. That doesn't surprise me.
In that garden, there's a cafe and whatnot, but there was a just completely freestanding photo studio that looked like something you'd get here, like a not necessarily high end, but a good photo studio with a white and many other color backdrops that you could book a photo shoot in. Like that's, I wonder how well that does, because on a ship
I'd be
like
curious
that,
to see
it'd be
that.
a bit redundant. I don't want a photo shoot in front of a white backdrop when I'm on a cruise.
Yeah,
At least
granted.
give me a cheesy staircase.
The cheesy, the Titanic staircase, the moon, the all of those kind of things, and the ship with the railings, anything like that. That people lap that up, but it's been done the same way for 30,
Still
40,
is.
50 years. Still do. It's still popular. But yeah, it's the delivery method has probably changed somewhat, because we printed everything 8 by 10, and it was $20 an image, something like that. And I think one of the biggest challenges they had was, especially nowadays, is the smartphones.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a problem with people just getting out their crappy, instant cameras, or and this was pre-digital. Again, some people had digital cameras, but most people were just getting regular cameras and just taking pictures of the pictures. And so you got to stamp that out, because it's like, wait a minute, this is our living that you're messing with.
The fact that even now they're still printing most of the photos and putting it up in the gallery, and there's no watermarks anywhere like that. You'd think over the course of time it'd be smart to just have a smart device where you can scroll and those are watermarked. So in that way, if people do take photos, not that it deters a ton of people, but they'd be taking photos with a watermark.
Yeah.
And then if they order the photos, they can be printed without the watermark. Instead of just printing all these photos, and I'm assuming a fair percentage aren't purchased. Now, at least.
I don't know. I mean, back then, I think it was probably about 20 to 30% was bought. We were throwing out a huge amount of stock. And of course, people would come up to us and say, you know what, if you didn't charge as much, you'd sell more. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. That's how it is. If we charge less, you'll still have people coming up and telling us the same thing. This is the price we charge. It's I guess it's an arbitrary charge, but they've got to know what the cutoff is. And I guess when you're doing something like this, you're nudging the price up until you get to a stage where you're suddenly the sales are dropping off. And of course, one of the things is the magic numbers. When you get past, it was 1995, and when you get up over the 20, you've suddenly just stepped over a line, and suddenly the price becomes too high. 1995 isn't as expensive sounding as 2095.
Yeah. Nowadays, if somebody took a photo of me and it was a good photo, I think that's the difference. If it is a certifiably good photo and they're selling me an 8x10 for $20, even here, if it's a good photo, I'd say that's about the top of what I'd pay for a single 8x10. And I threw the digital in, and I'd argue a little bit, but if they're gonna,
well, this is a selling point that we have through the baby photographers who I currently work with, because we have this debate quite often, is that we used to, that's
Hi, Al.
the Baby Photographers Inc. Find us on Instagram. When we, sorry, you want to go the full plug? No, when
I'll put a link on the screen.
we can do that.
What's the website? You know the website off by heart?
I have no idea. I never go. I know what we do. But we have the discussion about, we used to print. With Canadian Baby, we used to print. And one of the big things we have is prior customers. You have to go through it. You have to explain. We don't print anymore. We've stopped that completely. One of the reasons being people would always complain that the price of the print was expensive, and they just want the digital. And the Canadian Baby way had always been, you can buy the digital, but you have to spend $200 minimum on prints because we're a print company. Once you've bought the prints, you can have access to the digitals. We basically, because we don't have a lab, if we're going to print, we're printing through a middleman, a mediator, and we're losing more money that way. So for us, it's better to just go straight to the digital, because the argument is now the digital is far more valuable than a print, because a print is copyright. You can scan it, we can't stop you, but you've lost quality straight away as soon as you use a flatbed scanner. I don't even know, is it flatbed scanners now?
Favorite things at BDs. So when people bring in copyright material, the photos that say professional photo, do not copy, and they get so mad when I'm like, we can't copy this.
Yeah.
Like, why not? Like, it says, like, if it's a book, do not reproduce. No part of this book can be reproduced. This photo it says do not copy. She's like, well, the photographer is dead. I'm like, it says do not copy.
Yeah.
We can't do anything.
Get a note from his mum. And then, so beyond that, so when you buy the digital version of an image, you're getting complete ownership from us. And that is, it's a good selling point. I still like print. I think it's easily,
well.
it is a medium that's never going to go away.
But then the argument that to print photos now, in the case where you no longer have a proprietary lab that's doing the work for you, there's a middleman that you have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to find the right supplier that could even ship right to the customer, so you don't have to worry about that or anything like that.
Yeah.
Isn't it still more valuable to make another $2 or $3 per picture than to let Walmart take all the profit?
Probably. We are looking at that. We've had the discussion, and there's a couple of people Al's been talking to try and see if we can offer either or both. But we want to stick with digital for now. It's working well.
Oh, yeah.
And then the print side of things is, and this part of this comes to expansion and volume, because to get a reasonable price from a middleman, we want to be able to bring them a certain level of work. But what you've got to bear in mind is when I'm doing a baby shoot now, I'm doing the shoot, the viewing, and the sale. Whereas prior, with Canadian Baby, I was doing the shoot and I was gone. I was 25 minutes at times in and out of a client's house. Now, if I'm doing all of that, I'm over an hour. So if I'm then going to start taking print orders, you then add on how much extra time you've got for that. When does that become financially viable? If somebody just wants to order 1 or 2 prints, I can't then they don't want to order any digitals. How much are they going to charge for these prints? So it's a vicious circle, and it'll constantly go around when we can just say, you take the digitals, you can print as much as you want, and you decide how much you're going to spend. So it's a strange situation where you want to be able to provide the customer with as much service as possible. I would love to be able to add a print option, but we got to do it in such a way that it makes sense for us to add it. Because I very rarely have people say, "Well, I don't want to buy the digitals. I just want the prints."
Well, yeah, that was a very rare thing when I was doing it too.
And that did happen one time, and that was with a prior customer, who had, I think it was their third or fourth child.
A set of 12 5x7s.
They just want to buy 6 or 7 prints.
Makes some sense for some people, but they're just not going to. What are they going to do with digital images if they don't have a collection of photos already on a computer?
They don't have a NAS.
Yeah. Well, but there's no, like, 'cause a lot of people put a lot of stock into keeping, like, all my photos are in this one computer or my phone or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have that, then I suppose it would make sense that they would not care in the slightest for a digital image.
Yeah, but when we're talking about our clientele being young families, young mums, very few of them are going to not really be at the level of having a digital media, option. And so it's very rare that someone wouldn't have the ability to do any printing, from digital.
It's fair. You can. I mean, I think even a Walmart photo studio or print studio now has an app that you can just choose the photos from your phone and print them. So
Yeah, they have it.
in one way or another, you can definitely get prints done. It's just a question, and this is the thing that I have issues with, and it becomes more of an issue with each passing year. It's all these people, so all your customers now have 10 or whatever photos that they may use, they may print. But that's the thing. That's one of the nice things about the Canadian Baby prints is it was done. You could give them out because photos stay on CDs. Most people don't print photos from CDs unless they want. Like if that's an effort that
Agreed.
you have to go do.
Agreed. We find that with the school pictures and the Santa pictures. If you want to just get the CD, you're spending $40, and we never take that CD out. We've got probably about a dozen CDs that we've never put in even in the computer because we've got enough prints to send out to the family. Same with the school pictures. We don't bother with the CD option because we know we're not going to print anything off it.
In the case of all vacation stuff that I do, I sort, I edit. I'll definitely keep the raws of the ones that I have edited just so I can go back to them. If I'm not taking the time to edit the photos, within a few months they're gone because they're not ones that I care about.
Yeah.
They might have been good at the time, or they might not have been, but this is also coming from a person who has like 18 terabytes of storage.
Yeah.
So,
you got room. You got space. That's not an issue for you.
I need space saving. Whatever raw photo I can get rid of is a small win. You went to Disney World.
Yes.
How was Disney?
Good as ever.
Yeah?
I mean, the first time I went there, I was 16. 15 actually. It was my 16th birthday present was a guitar. There you go. Tying back into the original discussion. But yeah, I was 15 when we first went there, and it was. Now this was the first time I'd been to the States. First time I'd been on a plane. I think. Possibly. Probably. So we flew to the States, and you get off, and it is hard to explain someone who's been in Scotland, living in Scotland, to get off and be hit by a wave of heat, and to see the kind of cars that you see on TV, just driving around like perfectly normal. It's like, wow, look at that. It's an Oldsmobile. But to a 15-year-old getting there, it's just your whole horizon just gets pushed so far away that it's a wonderful experience, and that's part of why I've always had the travel bug. I've always loved traveling, and I was glad that I spent the 5 years traveling on cruise ships. But now coming back to Disney this year, we took our girls. We drove down. I actually enjoyed the drive. We drove the mountains. I don't mind it. It's for me. And this is the strange argument. Because, I mean, financially, it's about a tenth of the cost, even with the hotel stay added to it. It's still about a tenth of the cost of flying 4 of us down. And so, yeah, it's 2 days in the car, but it's time well spent. We enjoy it, and the drive itself, I don't mind. I drive 40,000 kilometers a year, and so what's an extra 4?
I don't miss that.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Never mind it. I enjoy, but that's why I drive a stick shift as well. I enjoy driving. So the drive down to Florida, we took the mountain route for the first time ever. We went to CAA for our triptych. Yes, and we took the triptych. And when I ordered it, they went, "Oh, you're going that way?" Yeah. I went, "Yeah." Oh, it's just that's not really our winter route. I'm like, "Well, we're going in November."
Visit Chattanooga.
That Chattanooga was the first or the last time we drove down. We stopped in Chattanooga. On the way back, we came back that way because when we went through, we hit a huge blizzard. Between 2 and 3 in the morning, that got us to a point where there was zero visibility, and this was 2 hours into the drive, and I thought, oh my God, we're going to have to turn back and go through Windsor. But we pushed on and we got through it, and that was the only time we had any problems. But we says, okay, we're coming back in a week. We're not coming back this way, because we know the way through Ohio and all of that. We know that route. We've done it that many times. So yeah, that was scary. But I mean, it is a beautiful drive, and I would love to do it in slightly more clement weather, shall we say, another time. And it's definitely quicker. It feels quicker, and I think it is the fact that you're not driving through Georgia for 6 hours before you get to Florida for another 6 hours. So that's basically the second day is 2 states, and that always kind of felt like a grind. It's not so bad going home, but always arriving, it just seemed to stretch out that second day interminably.
Yeah, I feel like this time we went to Florida, Alabama felt like the longest.
Alabama was huge. It was a long drive, and I'm the opposite. Driving there to Florida, no matter how long it took, that was fun. Driving home, you're just depressed. I don't want to go home. It's cold. It's snowing there.
Did not feel great considering I drove for I don't even know how many hours.
I fucked up.
6 or 7, and with the promise of Jesse sleeping on the way and driving.
I tried.
And then he tried, but then I still ended up driving the last 3 hours at from 3 in the morning until 6.
It was hard to sleep during the day.
Oh yeah. It's we nap.
And the only reason that I was okay with that is I knew it would be impossible for me to sleep during the day and be awake at night.
I tried.
So I let it be.
Yeah, I mean, normally the last few times we've left at 9 o'clock at night to give the girls a good long sleep, drove through the night, taking good long breaks, and that would mean a much shorter second day. But this time we did 1:30 in the morning we left, and we drove till 6-ish. We stopped in... Wasn't Charlotte. Colombo. Jacket. Peter Falk. I can't remember. Where the heck was it?
Columbia.
What state?
I want to say one of the Carolinas.
State of disrepair.
North Carolina. Well, Charlotte.
Because no, Charlotte was North Carolina. We stayed in South Carolina.
Okay.
Anyway, wasn't Charleston. I know that. Anyway, so yeah. It was a blast. It was a great time. And because Sam works in retail, she doesn't get to do Christmas, for vacations. She's in work. It's a blackout period for vacationing. So we managed to just get the first week of Christmas in Disney. So that was great fun. We'd never done that before. We usually do the haunted Halloween or not so scary Halloween But Mackenzie has got over her fear of going upside down on a roller coaster, so you probably
still
saw
have
the
that fear.
picture. Yeah, that's...
I don't like upside down.
No.
Well, she finally did the Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster.
I did see the photo.
I love that ride so much. And you know, every time I go, Steven Tyler doesn't look a day older. It's amazing. I don't see. I modelled my energy on him. You know.
Pretty good energy.
Oh yeah.
My family is going to Disney in January with my nieces and
Mm-hmm.
nephews, and since they were born, because I don't have kids of my own yet, I dreamed of going to Disney with them, because especially my one nephew, very creative, and that to me is just really intriguing. Seeing it once again through the eyes of a child, because that's a magical place.
Oh,
Happiest place
absolutely.
on earth.
But I still can't get over this. It doesn't matter what age the people are. You see, like the teenagers who would normally be the sullen.
Yep.
Oh,
They have fun.
I hate you, and they're not. They're walking around. They're smiling. They're wearing the stupid ears, and they've got the everything. You can see how much fun they're having, and they're excited. Now, this was my first experience. I was 15 when I first went there. So for me, I thought, you know, I'm probably like a little, because it's my first time, this is probably not the normal way to act when you're a 15-year-old in Disney. I loved it. But coming back, yeah, it's still a lot of fun going with the kids, the girls. And yeah, we've always enjoyed it, always loved the place. But I tell you what, their photos, and they've got it down to a fine art with, you know, you scan the card, they take the picture, you scan the card, and you've got a collection. You buy the CD at the end, or you order individual images. We used to pay, what, 150 to 180 bucks for it. We went to order it this time. It's gone up to 280 bucks for the CD of all the images. Oh, that's crazy. So we'll order it. What choice do we have? We you know, most of our photos were taken by their staff.
Were they good?
They were competent. They're holiday photos. You know, it's an industry. It's very well polished. It's the same as what we do when we take baby photos. It's very polished. We can photograph 5, 6, 7 babies in a day because we have a system and we have a technique. Why am I getting the eyes? Knock yourself out.
Slowly pulling it towards myself.
It's all good. So yeah, one of the things is, yeah, it is such a well-oiled machine at Disney that, you know, and the Toy Story world is now open. So that was amazing. The Toy Story land, the roller coaster is a Slinky Dog. It's fantastic.
I've never been to Disney. I don't know really anything about it. Where do they get the room for these rides? Do they take other ones down, or do they expand?
Bit of both.
the park?
Bit of both. I mean, it is built on
They own mass amounts of undeveloped
yeah,
land still.
huge
sense.
tracks, and it's all swampland, so they can do whatever they want with it. But yeah, they're currently, they've torn down a couple of rides. I'm not even sure which ones it is, but there's some that will stay there forever, like the Dumbo ride. I mean, they refurbished that and they added some extra stuff to it, but it's still the same Dumbo ride that has been there for decades.
It's a small world.
It's a small world after all. That will never go away. You know, it's a huge draw. The kids loved it, but they were building the Tron experience, the Tron ride,
Which is odd because, like Disney, I get it. Their parks, because of what they own, they're being a little bit more Marvel and Star Wars heavy with some of their new things. But I know about that Tron thing, and the last movie that they had, Tron Legacy, bombed. So they're putting a lot of money in something that wasn't that well received, and it's been
a few years.
like.
But it'll always be in their canon. It'll always be in their archives. They will very probably get their money back
Oh yeah.
from people doing the ride and then checking out the movie.
Existing in the park, there's no way that they're not going to make their money. That park,
Exactly.
whether it's an empty plot of land or it's another ride, they're.
But Pirates of the Caribbean ride, that could well have been one that got demolished to make way for a new one. Instead, they made a movie out of it.
Well, yes, and there's a whole separate story behind that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
They make the movie and then they refurbish the ride.
yeah, they put Jack Sparrow in there, and suddenly it's a huge popular ride again. You know, so they can't, you know, they can't hit with every swing.
Is the park like a manageable size to walk around in the course of a day, or is it a little bit too big for that? I'm expecting that you don't go on every ride.
You've no chance.
just
Not
pick.
just because of the wait times on a lot of them. That's why the fast pass is a great thing.
I will say the best experience I ever had at Disney, and it will never compare,
I know this.
is my brother. We all got to go down with Make-A-Wish.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to do Disney and Universal. And I, to this day, will say that Universal theme parks are more technologically advanced than Disney. They take bigger risks. If you're a movie person, Universal's obviously a lot better because they're very good at the immersive movie stuff.
Yeah.
Universal, because it was myself, my dad, my stepmom, and my brother. We all got the unlimited fast pass. So at Disney, we didn't have to sign in. We just go to the front of the line.
Yep.
That was cool. That meant that we went on everything that we could.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
even without a lineup, can't do everything. It's
Yeah.
impossible.
Okay.
And at
It's-
Universal, they actually gave everybody in my family the extent, because there was my stepsister and her husband, so they got the unlimited fast pass as well. So that was an interesting experience.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing that they do this. It really is, and the fast pass is a great concept. I don't know who came up with it first, but it is a brilliant idea because when the lineup, I mean the Slinky Dog ride, because it's so new, the lineup, we were shocked to see that it was 110 minutes.
Wow.
Turns
For a
out
6-minute ride.
Turns out that before that, when it first opened, it was over 200-minute wait, and people were standing for over 3 hours to do one ride because it was a ride that hadn't been done before. Simple as that. And you think you've got young kids standing in line to go to Disney to do that. They don't.
Miserable.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do that. You know, we did the whirling, you know, the 3 aliens in Toy Story,
Yeah.
right? We did their ride. That was only a 40-minute wait, and the girls were brilliant, you know. But the whole idea, you know, you help them understand that some things you do have to wait for. But as soon as they saw the length of the time that they'd be expected to wait for the Slinky Dog ride, they were like, yeah, no.
It's a big chunk of your day.
It is a huge chunk of your day, and it's not cheap for admission.
Is there like a slow season where you could strategically just get
They
the
do
most out
have
of it?
down seasons, but Disney even has that down to a science. All the articles I read say
Creates. I think they create long. I have something about
on the
creating
down
longer lineups.
season they
Yeah.
create not necessarily artificial weight, but they'll take extra carts out of the
Yeah.
queue, so that way
It looks like the ride's fuller.
it looks like the ride's fuller, because you want to create that
Busyness.
scarcity.
Yeah, you want okay. I can believe that.
Which makes
It's
me
never occurred to me.
Lose a little bit of respect, and I feel like even Canada's Wonderland has
Oh,
done things
definitely.
like that, which is a park that I feel like you really could see all in one day if you went on a sort of slow day.
Again, yeah,
They're smart in the way
you'd have
that
to be
they
very
have,
organized.
like
They're
their prime
doable.
rides, the popular ones like the Aerosmith roller coaster and whatnot. And then as you're waiting for that, if you do have the fast pass, there are smaller things, or there are ones. It's been a long time since I've been there, but there are some that just by nature, because they're older or not as popular, the waits aren't as long. So
Oh yeah,
there's
yeah.
a decent mix.
There's a good mix of rides you practically walk
Did you
straight into.
go see our President Donald J. Trump at the Hall of Presidents?
Is he even in?
Yeah.
Wow.
Where's the Hall of?
He barely got into George Bush's funeral.
I know.
That was crazy.
No, they have always done it, so all the new presidents get their own speaking lines, but he's in the animatronic Hall of Presidents. Yeah, this is unfortunate because we're on a time crunch this time, but I feel like I could talk to you for like another 3 hours, so you'll have to come back
You gonna pay me next time?
once we get paid.
It's true. We'll
For
check-
sure.
We'll get the check and then we'll see.
All right.
It's a labor of love right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, this has been fun.
But it's interesting.
And it is, yeah, there's a lot more stories to tell. Because
I bet.
I was planning on telling my Christmas story.
I want, you know what, this
you know-
episode is actually going to release on Christmas Eve.
Oh, is that right?
So let's, and Merry Christmas Eve, by the way.
Merry
everybody.
Christmas.
You have time. We're very close to the Mandarin. Let's hear the Christmas story.
Okay. Picture it. No.
It's the night before Christmas.
So, I think the ship was the Splendor. And on this ship, I was the lab assistant by this time. I was getting towards the end of my time. It was either my last or my second to last contract. And this was December. Me and Sam had made plans because for once, now Key West had been taken off our itinerary. But for this one specific cruise, Christmas Eve, we were having an overnight in Key West. So all of the crew were very excited because generally you don't get an overnight period. Never mind in Key West. Fantastic place. So a bunch of us crew members knew about a nice little Italian restaurant just up the road that the passengers wouldn't know about. They want the sandals and shirt kind of cocktail bars. So this little restaurant got booked up quite quickly by crew members who knew about it. So me and Sam booked a table for Christmas Eve, probably 9:30 at night, something like that. But because there was normally you've got to be back on board like an hour before the ship's going to sail. Well, it's not sailing until sometime in the morning. So as long as you're back on board by 5 a.m., you're good. So we booked this table for Christmas Eve, and 3 days before, I'm in the mess trying to force down some of their food, and the phone rings and it's for me, and so I pick it up and it says, "Yeah, hi, this is Joe, the manager. You're being transferred off the ship." I'm like, "You what?" Yeah, they've got a problem on, and it was like one of the Radisson 7 Seas ships, because we serviced them as well. We did the photography on there. The chief photographer has left, and it's going to be a few days before his relief captain comes, or his relief manager comes on, and there's just one assistant on there who doesn't know what he's doing, and the lab's a disaster area, and they took a crew photo, and there's all sorts of stuff to sort out. We need you to go down there and sort it out. I'm like, no. we got a booking for Christmas Eve in Key West. He says, "Okay, you'll be flying back on Christmas Eve." I went, "Okay, well, I'm still gonna go and tell Sam, but okay, I better go pack my bags." So I get flown. Actually, no, we arrived in the port of call, which I think was Antigua, and I basically got signed off the ship, walked along the gangway to this. And it was one of these luxury catamarans. It's a huge catamaran, but it was still, but it was only like a 200 passenger boat. It was like luxury cruising. And because there was no cabin available, I got a guest cabin. So that was nice. But this lab, sure enough, was an absolute disaster area. And I did as much as I could, but eventually I says, "No, you're going to have to bring someone on because this is a week's worth of cleanup. It's got to be done." So, true enough, they signed me off, and in Montego Bay, in Jamaica, and had me booked on a flight from Montego Bay to Miami, from Miami to Key West. I'm like, "Okay, no problem." So I got off the ship, got to the airport, and there was a 3-hour delay on the plane. And I'm like, "You're kidding me." "Okay, let's go." So got on the plane in Montego Bay, 3 hours late. We're landing in Miami, and I'm seeing a plane taking off in the direction of Key West. I'm thinking, I am so dead. So we get ourselves down at the terminals for the changeover for the flight, and I'm saying, "Okay, I've got a connecting flight to Key West." "Yeah, there's only 2 left for today." I'm like, "This one's full. The next one is at 7:30, something like that. to Key West. And then the next one after that is 11 p.m. And I just went, okay, here's the thing. I work on a cruise ship that is currently in Key West. If it sails without me, I'm going to get deported. And my fiance is probably going to leave me. And the girl says, okay, we'll see what we can do. Because there was like 300 people trying to get a standby seat on a twin prop plane, you know, with one aisle, one row of seats on it. So they were saying, okay, we're going to have to see who we can get on board. So luckily they got me on this plane. And it was literally, it was like one of those juddery planes with like, you know, I can't even, I think I had a seat. I certainly had no luggage, stowage space. But yeah, we got to Key West, and I'm looking at the time, and I'm saying, I have to get a taxi. Now, luckily I had a cell phone that had a SIM card for the States. So I was able to call a taxi, and of course, because it's a domestic flight, I just bolted it through the airport in Key West, got in a taxi. And by this time, it was gone 9 o'clock at night. I'm thinking, she's going to kill me. Now, I've been on this ship in this photo lab for basically 2 to 3 days of constant, like up to your elbows in chemicals, getting into this taxi, getting driven straight to this restaurant. And I open the doors, luggage in hand, and I walk through the doors, and I swear, and there was about 25 tables, and I swear 90% of them looked around and let out a huge sigh of relief because they all knew me, and they all knew that Sam was sitting. And when I walked in the door, I saw Sam sitting right across, and she just looked up at me, and we both welled up because, you know, it was just an amazing moment. So we walked in, and everyone was like, oh, hi. I went, yeah, hi. What's that smell? Because I mean, it's bleach and stuff. So yeah, it was a great night. Finally, you know.
That was a photo finish.
That really was a photo finish, because it was literally, she was sitting there having her drink, and I looked terrible, but it didn't really matter. It was a good night, and we lived happily ever after.
Yeah, and here we are.
Yeah.
No, that's a great story.
Yes.
Yeah, cruise ships, great fun. Like I say, I if my kids wanted to do that, to travel, I'd certainly be more up for it than them backpacking around Vietnam. I'll tell you that. Backpacking anywhere. But yeah, you know, for a gap year, it'd be a great thing. But some people do it for years, decades. My little sister still works on cruise ships. She loves it.
What does she do?
She does trunk shows with a jeweler called Hubert, and Hubert Inc. And his jewelry is amazing. I mean, Stanley, his wife, was one of his clients. We actually managed to get a great a Christmas gift for my brother-in-law, who he's a huge Marvel fan, and so we got a signed picture from Stanley for him, written, personalized. That was cool. But yeah, that's another story. She came out for a 10-day cruise with me and Sam, and went home. Is that
your camera is dead?
We've
that
gone died.
I think it was 70.
Yeah, I started waffling anyway. But yeah, so yeah, she's still out there, and she came and visited with us, cruised with us for 10 days. Went home, put her apartment up for sale.
We're almost done anyways.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time.
Yeah. So yeah, she went home, she put her apartment up for sale, quit her job, and then started looking for work on cruise ships, and she's worked there ever since.
That's fun.
And she loves it. It's suited to her lifestyle. It really suits her. But yeah, when me and Sam were done, we were done. We knew it was time to get off, because you can only do it for so long. High rate of burnout on there. A lot of people don't finish their first contract. But 5 years was about normal. That's how long we lasted.
Well, Andrew, this has been fun.
It has.
I want you to come back. You're not
Definitely,
leaving. We're
definitely.
going out for dinner.
Yes.
See you meet at Christmas party.
Yes.
But,
Mandarin. Can't
yeah.
beat it.
I enjoyed this.
I did too.
So we'll sign off. I realize that this is Christmas Eve, but Eric and I will be exchanging Christmas gifts on something you'll probably see after New Year's. scheduling's a little bit weird. Have a good night.
Goodbye.